I'm Stuart Webb from Alphonse Fishing Company. This evening I'm going to be strapping up a bit of a Semper style pattern with a bit of a twist. I'll start just dressing the hook in a bit of red. Doesn't need to be neat, it's just a base to tie over. Obviously tying it on an 8 SL12 if possible, but whatever you can get a hold of. So I'm going to start on the tail with two really nice long hackles that are kind of going to sit a lot further back than the rest of the hackles. Just kind of measure them up. Tie them in down the side of the shank of the hook. Preferably facing opposite ways away from the hook, not inwards. So there's a lot more movement in the water. The 8 is great because it gives you just a little bit more gape and size, especially with the feathers hanging so far off the back of the hook. And save these guys for some crab claws or something. Again, don't worry about it being neat at this stage. I'm going to start with my normal hackles. Again, facing outwards. Just nicely centered. You can just play with it, roll it down a bit. Get them even. And then these guys, like a fine whiskey, I only bring them out on special occasions, but again, just try and marry up the ends of the feathers. Probably doesn't matter to the fish, but it matters to the tire. Couple loops, tie it in, cut off your excess. You can leave a bit so your body's quite bulky. Use something else to tie over. Couple wraps, make sure there's no bits of feather sticking through there. It really looks quite tasty. And then I'm going to grab some bucktail. I'd use black if I had it, but I don't. Olive's a nice color. You can just pull out the smaller bits there. Dress it in, nice soft loop to begin with, and you can slide it back just so that it doesn't splay too hard when you wrap it in tightly, and just kind of move it around the shank of the hook so that it's evenish. It just helps you with your profile when you tie in the marabou ahead of this. when it's in the water, it doesn't dissipate like the marabou does. Nice tight wraps on there, and you can tie over the back a couple times, nice and hard to begin with, so that it actually stands up. A couple of nice tight wraps. Obviously don't snap your thread, just seated it nicely so it splays out a bit. And then you can go ahead and grab some marabou. With the marabou, in these cases I prefer like a softer shaft to the feather, because then you get obviously more wraps, but if you've got a brush machine you can always build up your excess and make a brush out of it. I'll just tie it in from the tip there. Just the tip. Wrap it a little bit forward, give yourself some room, kind of get that fiber all splayed out. Just keep that there for a second. And then when you're palmering in, generally go the same direction that your thread is wrapped. Just kind of tease it as you wrap it forward. Nice tight wraps, tight turns. And you can wrap it a couple times until the shaft of the feather gets too thick. At this stage it's not that important, but when you get closer to the front of the fly, the shaft, you don't want the shaft of the hook, the shaft of the feather exposed. It doesn't look neat. Just hold it in there, work it past. Just a couple of turns to hold it in position. Spin it around. Get your excess off, and then just almost spin it with your fingers so it's a little bit tighter, and then get a couple wraps over it. Seat it down properly. Go ahead and tie in the next color, which is black. Just from the tip again. Just move your thread out of the way. Same again, the same way that you've been wrapping your thread and everything else. Couple nice turns until you can see the feather actually doing the work, and then you just wrapping in, pulling back every time. It's fine if you trap a couple fibers, because you can come through with a nice big pin or bodkin afterwards, pull it all out. If you're having trouble with the marabou going everywhere, you can lick your fingers and dress it back. I don't like to do that because then you can't see what the actual fly is going to look like. I enjoy that side of it. And again, hold it and tie it off. Couple of wraps. Trim off the excess. Try not to trim off your thread there. If you've got nice marabou that has a thin stalk, you can use one, but I'll chuck two on because I've got quite thick shaft marabou here. Couple of nice tight turns. And then just trap it. Always move the thread towards the feather as opposed to the feather to the thread. And trim it. Now you're getting close to the end. Use some nice black schlappen as a bit of a collar. It just gives you a nice profile as opposed to the marabou sinking down to nothing. The schlappen will stay upright in the water. Also tie it in from the tip. Just pull the fibers in the opposite direction to what it would naturally go. And just train it into going in nicely so that they splay straight out from the shaft of the hook. Obviously trying not to wrap over each other. I'll probably do this 2 or 3 times depending on how much room you've left yourself. Trap it. Couple turns more than enough. Some nice pointy scissors in there. Slapping again. I'm just looking for a nice even feather that's straight, that hasn't been twisted in the bag or anything, and it's probably just a personal thing, but a feather that has a nice point on it, it's you're using more of the feather when you're palmering it in. Trim it in again, just kind of pull it back opposite direction. You can just tie in the tip. So this is where you're going to start taking care with any extra materials hanging over your thread, because this is you coming up to finish your GT destroyer. Try and get them pointed straight out. Couple of nice tight turns. dressing it back as you palmering. Nice tight turns. You can really see that collar forming. Okay, pretty much there. I'm going to leave a little bit of space to give yourself a nice head. Couple turns just to hold it in place. Trim off your excess, and then any of those fibers pointing forward, you can just train them back and then start building up your head. Head doesn't need to be massive, but on a big fly, a nice big head just looks better. Once again, more for the tire than the fish. I'm going to go ahead and finish it off with a little whip finish. Just a couple of them. Pretty much done. Epoxy is obviously going to be a bit better for the head, but in this scenario I'll just use some UV knot sense, and you'll see how the head pops once you finish it off. You can build up, use quite a bit there. Your fly's almost done. You just use your UV light, give it a couple of turns, dry it off. Then you can take your pin and just pluck out any trap fibers. I probably did that in the wrong order. Generally pluck out your fibers first. Not too many, not too bad. So you've got that bucktail at the back to help that marabou from sinking down to nothing, and then you've obviously got the schlappen right in the front to keep the profile from the front. And all you got to do is put it in front of a fish, and that's pretty much it.